Hello and welcome to this Warhammer Fantasy and End Times, I guess, Rambles video with me, Mark, from the Xenovid channel. And today with me, of course, I have...
hello.
He's Ian. Hello. So this is just going to be a simple discussion video about Warhammer Fantasy. It's about a month's time that I think the new 9th edition Fantasy is rumoured to be coming out. So we're going to talk about how it's affecting our armies and kind of our army lists and how we're going to start playing the game of fantasy. So you'll start by saying what armies you are collecting / have.
I would.
Go for
I
it.
would like to start.
Go for it.
So I have dwarves. I have a lot of dwarves. I have I think 3,000 points worth. Maybe more. I've got a few cannons in there. Quite helpful.
Just a few.
And I also have about 30 models of lizard men.
Okay.
That's it. That's what I've got. So dwarves and lizard men.
Dwarves and lizard men. I have currently some High Elves and a couple of models from Vampire Counts, but it's kind of now the Undead Legion because that's kind of how they are now with all this end time stuff. And that's the first thing that's affecting one of the armies I want to collect. Vampire Counts is kind of Undead Legions now. Nagash is the big player for that army. So the story in End Times is kind of something along the lines a little bit like this. Nagash has been revived. A load of sacrifices have been made, and they've got done CPR. And what's the rhythm for CPR?
Well, it's changed. It used to be like match of the day thing.
That's crazy.
Yeah, literally that.
I thought it was
Which is
Staying
another
Alive.
reason. Yeah, Staying Alive. They're all the same kind of beat, but it's now increased to be more. That is exactly it.
So he's been revived.
Defib.
And the model for Nagash is beautiful. I've seen the old model. It's about this.
Rumour has it they based it on me.
They based it on you. Rumour, you starting that rumour?
Yeah, I'm going to start that rumour.
So Nagash was based on Ian, mostly the beard, and and the model was amazing. Not just looking, but the gameplay is brilliant. The thing is though with Nagash, you need a 60 odd quid. And you need to get the Nagash book, which is 60 odd quid, which is 120 quid just to field him. And then he spawned, with his magic, he makes more units than you could normally get. And that's a lot more in price.
Demons.
So if you wanted your Vampire Counts army, yes, he's 1,000 points. Yes, say it's a 3,000 point army, you just make a 2,000 point Vampire Counts army, have him as 1,000 points.
But
and
you
then
still need another 1,000 points to then.
So
you might as well make a 4,000 point.
Exactly, which costs a lot of money. So anyway, he's been defibbed and revived, and has decided, you know what, I would like.
I don't know who was the unlucky person to give him mouth-to-mouth though.
Rumour has it was Ian.
No, the model's based on me, so I can't give mouth-to-mouth to myself. That just doesn't make any sense.
It was. I don't really know the characters. It was Van Kisselot.
That's brilliant modern.
From the eastern realm of the vampires. Anyway, the defib happened. He was come back, and he's like, right, I think I'm going to take over the world and have a world of undead. So he assimilates the Tomb Kings essentially into them and goes on this rampage trying to take down as much as he can. The second book comes out, which I think was the Elves book. Tyrion goes a bit crazy, turns into the avatar of Cain, and they find out Malekith, who is the Dark Elf, is actually the true king of the elves. In Ulthuan, which was the island of the High Elves, they've got a thing there which prevents the winds of chaos and chaos from completely taking over the world. And they've got a ritual where if you're noble, you walk through this flaming circle thing, and if you're not burned, then you are the next king of the elves, essentially. He was burnt alive,
but they fixed it.
A bit crispy, and finds out that actually it was corrupted, and they made sure he didn't become king. And so obviously he got angry, went off, made the Dark Elves, came back, loads of civil war, to the point where the island of the High Elves was almost completely destroyed, and the magic, their mages and stuff, was preventing it from sinking into the ocean. So Malekith comes back, they find out he's the actual king. Most of the elves then unite under his banner. Tyrion goes a bit crazy. The magics fade, and the elves migrate, essentially, away as their island, which has been core to the lore of the elves in fantasy, sinks into the ocean. They go off to the forests and now reside there with the Wood Elves and some of the Dark Elves, with Malekith as the king, and there's no bears, and they stop any beastmen coming along in the forest, and they annoy Britannia because they're the next realm across. A little bit.
Oi.
And
Oi.
So that was it. Then you've got Skaven.
Just like infestation.
Yeah, if you can imagine just multiplying rats, evolution of rats, because some of them are quite big now, the Vermin Lords, and there's just loads more. They're taking over places. They've gone down to where the lizard men are, one of your armies, and basically the world is ending. The skinks are like, right, we've got to get out of here. They start instinctively doing some glyphs or buttons, and essentially these ancient, what's the word I'm looking for? These ancient ships, essentially, that were in, is it Loria? Is that where these lizard men are? Lustria, that's the word. They go off into space on their adventures. I now see and whilst this is happening, asteroids come down and destroy Lustria. I see the lizardmen now as they've got these massive ships similar to the 40k Eldar, where they've got all of their history and stuff, but then they've got like stargates, and they can then teleport and come in and out with their tongues like that. The ogres in the east, their lands have been destroyed, and they're migrating to the west, and the rumours are they're assimilating into the Empire army.
Kind of like mercenaries in there.
Yeah, something like that. The dwarves have been having lots of battles with the undead, the orcs, Skaven, obviously in the mountains. They've had a huge council meeting and been like, what do we do? And most of them have been like, let's drink and stay in our mountains. And now chaos is coming down again to invade. And if you could see a map of the old world, it's essentially evil everywhere, and a few spots where the good armies are left. And it is the end of times, hence the name End Times.
No, what?
But in narrative format, you have to have this darkness and evil winning for there to be
light at the end of the tunnel.
Exactly. But how does it affect our hobby? Like we said, lizardmen probably are going to get a lot of love. In the story, they've gone away. Dwarves
on a jet plane.
On a jet plane. The dwarves
don't know when they'll be back again.
They storyline. They're in their mountains. They generally are in the mountains and not doing anything. The High Elves is where it's the big, and the undead is the big changes, and I'm still, after weeks and weeks and weeks, in two minds of whether I like the way it's gone with the elves. I've liked High Elves for a very long time. On my video of which fantasy army to choose, the Wood Elves and Dark Elves were also in my top 5, but the problem with
That's
them...
the thing, you always have liked elves and elf type things.
But the thing about amalgamating them is like it doesn't make sense when they're on the board. It's like the Roman Greek High Elves, the Celtic warriors of the Wood Elves, and the pirate-esque Dark Elves don't work together on the board
But
visually.
Dark Elder and Elder,
I would never field them together. They don't look
were
like...
they, in your opinion?
Yeah, exactly. That's why I'm in two minds about this whole end times thing
But
with the elves.
at the same time, obviously, we'll touch on it later, but unbound stuff, so you don't necessarily have to take stuff from the Dark Elves or the Wood Elves. Or if you did, you can just change it up and do this, do that, do the other. So you could just focus all on the High Elves if you wanted to. Like you said, it's not that you're not a fan of the elves, it's just you're not a fan of the elves together. So eventually over time maybe you get some Wood Elves or some Dark Elves, mix them into the army, but then eventually build up that way. Who knows?
With the High Elves, I had written a list. We'd said about doing 3,000 point armies, just because, I mean, we've seen 2,000 point armies on mini wargaming, but with 3,000 points, you've got more variety of the models you want to field, and it's a bit more epic, we feel. And with my High Elves book last night, I was looking over it, and I had 783 points in Lords, which would be a prince, on a moon dragon, talisman of preservation.
Moon dragon?
Yeah.
Is there different types of dragons?
You have a sun dragon, which is the lowest form of dragon, moon dragon, which is the middle one, and star dragon, which is one of the ancient ones. That's really hard to kill. You'd have a lance, heavy armour, and that would be a Killy Lord. Then I've got a Lawmaster of Hoeth with the Book of Hoeth, which is a level 2 wizard essentially. Then I'd have a mage, and then I'd have a noble on a horse with a load of armour, and the noble itself would be in a unit of 9 silver helm, which is the cavalry unit. I'd have a unit of 5 other silver helm. I'd have 30 spearmen and 5 alien reavers for 767 points of core. So core. So that's 783 points in the Lords, in the Heroes 246, Core 767. Specials, I've got 882, and that is just with a unit of White Lions, a unit of Swordmasters, and a unit of Phoenix Guard. And for my rare, 310 points, a Frost Phoenix and a Bolt Thrower. Not a lot of shooting, all very close combat orientated.
Which is how you always play. You are the close combat.
Well, fantasy is more close combat orientated as a game, isn't any
everything.
As it is.
Chess, you're close combat.
I can't help it. Snap, blackjack, Quidditch. So that is the list. But if we're looking at some of the rumours that's happened, okay. 50% Lords happened when the Gash entered the field, and that is something that will carry on into 9th edition. So I could essentially have 1,500 points. I could have another dragon or a dragon mage in there and take some...
I'd like it if you didn't.
You'd like it if I didn't? Okay, I'll consider your thoughts in that. But also recently it's come with Unbound rumours, similar to 40k. Now, in 40k, it's not so bad. You
get a disadvantage for it.
You get a disadvantage for it. There's been no hint of a disadvantage. I would presume if you had a bound army, you would get a +1 to going first, because it's all the mechanics there is you set up your models.
Or perhaps like in combat you get more of a bonus.
Like, or a +1 to your dispel or magic, because that's a huge thing in the game, obviously.
But like if you look at 40k, Unbound is just on objectives, whereas in fantasy, it's like you said, it's all about the close combat.
Yeah.
So if you have a bound with a +1 close combat, who knows? That would maybe increase more people to have a bound over an Unbound, because Unbound at the minute, like you said, there have been no rumours to say that you get handicapped by having a completely unbound army.
I mean, so I've
just take a load of cannons.
I've only got 30 spearmen. I would normally have done 20, and I would have had the extra 100 or something points in another bolt throw or something. But I have to get my core to the minimum of 25% of your army. So if it's unbound, then I might shave a few spearmen off and have another bolt thrower, something simple like that. But that's already affecting my thoughts into that. You could have 4 princes on dragons, and then still have points left to do a big cavalry bus, which is one of the lists that's been banned at some of the tournaments because it's so powerful.
This brings up the question of why would you do bound or unbound? Like, if you're doing an unbound army and you cheese it up to like 4 cheese pizza kind of standard, then you lose friends.
Yeah.
But obviously we battle each other all the time, so I don't know, we'd probably test something out, maybe see how it goes.
I think a bound and unbound unbound would be better in a narrative campaign. Honestly.
Yeah. Saying that, I don't think I'm gonna like spam 10 cannons and just be like, yeah.
Well, you could get that normally, because you can have cannons in your special and your rares, I'm sure, and they're like 100 points. So you could easily do that anyway. You bully. That would just be mean.
So obviously, unless you came up with something that you thought was like unbeatable, and we tried it out. But when we eventually get around to playing, I think we are going to keep it kind of...
Try and keep it bound.
Bound, possibly. Or all of the 40k League ones are bound?
Yeah.
All of mine are.
All of mine are.
So all of the 40k ones are bound, so we've kept it bound. I know, obviously, you can try out different things with unbound, but that we can do that for narrative campaigns and stuff like that.
Friendly ones. And with the collaboration of with End Times, the elves have come together and allied, and you do get bonuses and stuff like that. I mean, with using the gash and the End Times, the undead, when the general dies, they don't crumble anymore, which was a huge hindrance. Basically, you do a leadership for each unit, and then whatever extra above your leadership, which is normally a 6, you lose wounds and stuff.
I'd be fine with that.
You'd be fine with that. So having this collaboration is kind of forcing my hand in a clever way for Games Workshop to be like, right, you like elves, you can have all of these elves, you can have whatever combination you want, you can have an unbound list, you can do whatever you want. If you think a load of tree men with some dragons and some dark elf cavalry look great, do it. It doesn't matter anymore, and you'll get loads of buffs for it. But it means I'd have to buy the codex for dark elves, the codex for wood elves, the models for them. The normal player has to spend at least £60 in books and literature to play these armies. Extra. Like I said before, Nagash is 60-something pounds, his book is 60-something pounds, it's £120 just to play this one model and his rules and things. And then you need to get the extra things. And they've put a lot of effort into these models, and the models look great. And I still think Warhammer Fantasy models are the best looking models out there in the world.
And why is that? Because they're based on me.
They're based on.
Yeah, no, they are fantastic models, but you do have, and especially now coming into it, it looks as if Fantasy has been struggling compared to 40k, and so Games Workshop have gone, okay, what is there any way we can get money from this, or try and reintroduce it, revive it, kind of thing. And so having grouped armies, like you said, it's not just for the elves, for the Empire. So they've got the Empire, the dwarves, the ogres. They're all going to be in there. So again, if you want to mix and match, you can get a couple of codexes. Even though if you're only getting one or two things from other armies, it's just increasing the popularity of it, and so it gives it a fresh look, but they also get a bit of money coming in.
My concern with 9th edition happening as well, other than the fact the rulebook's probably going to be like 70 quid, the price goes up every time, is the fact that the way 40k is going, you had 6th edition came out, and then you had the standard codex releases, but then it was okay, they're hardback covers, there's a few extra rules and bits, and it's great. 7th edition comes out, they're hardback covers, some of the codexes aren't as good as you'd hoped, and then you've got Space Wolves and you've got Necrons, which had very, very...
Badgers just entered.
Very, very strong codexes, but then you get these supplements, so these add-ons that you have to buy. Then you have these detachments and things that allow you to vary your army list and allow you to play very strong army. For example, in the Necrons, you can have that Wraith one where your Wraiths essentially can have reanimation protocols. Now that will push you to get more Wraiths. Your Decurion detachment will push you to get models you may not necessarily have had before. So as a hobbyist and a gamer, you have to get these extra things. It's like if you had a video game and you spend the £50 on it, and then they say, right,
to get to level 2 you have to buy.
To get to level 2 you have to get an expansion set. It's only $3.99, but this is every week or every month. And then and added extra onto that for an extra mission is another $1.99 on top of that.
Yeah.
And these little things that are adding up and adding up and adding up is making your hobby experience better. But as a hobbyist, you kind of have to take a step back and kind of say, look, I'm pumping for a valid army. I'm pumping £300-400 into this one army to have it battle ready. Now I'm having to spend an extra £150 to £200 on extra bits. That's brilliant for a business, but what is that going to be for fantasy players when it's generally been a game of many models? Do you think they would condense it so things would be more? So they would say, right, you can have 50% lords, and each lord is going to be 500 to 1,000 points. So if you do a 2,000 point army, you'll have one model, maybe two models as your generals, and then you can have a few little units as your backup people and have some skirmish games and stuff like that, as well as the big one? Or do you think they would focus all their attention on having more and more and more and more things? Because either way, they're going to make money out of you. If you wanted to play a 2,000 point fantasy game with your dwarves, and they said, right, new dwarf codex comes out, they've got a detachment in there which would equate to about 1,500 points on the table, all you need is this new Lord that's 30 quid. And you've got some handgunners, and then a new rare choice, which is another 30 quid. Now you have 3,000 points of your army, but you say, right, I've got this codex, these couple more models, that's an extra £100 I'm going to spend. And then you read through the codex and you're like, oh, okay, some of these units aren't the same, I'm going to get some extra stuff. They're going to make easily £200 out of you.
Yes. And that's they kind of, for a business, they kind of have to do that kind of thing, not necessarily to that extent, but I know a lot of gamers will be quite happy using older models to do certain things and just play with what they've got, and that is part of the hobby. Obviously for us, we have to try and keep you guys entertained as well. So we like to develop our hobby as we can, as big as we can. So for us, I think it is going to be a big hit on our wallets.
A big hit. So the more views we get, it would be great.
Because on top of that as well, obviously lizard men, kind of, they'll be there but just not as common as they are now.
Yeah.
So
you might see a lot of people trying to sell them on eBay, so you could get some good deals for that. But as soon as an army like gets overpowered, all the models like double in price.
So it kind of makes me feel like maybe I should get something else. But I'm really actually enjoying painting my lizard men at the minute. They're all like lizards.
Like Jurassic Park.
It is just like Jurassic Park. Kind of walk in and it's just like, whoa! I was trying to look through an electric fence or something, and I made sure I wasn't sitting on the toilet at any stage.
Yeah. And don't run around because their vision is based on movement.
Yeah. So if you stand still, they get bored and walk away.
Easy time. So what do you guys think in terms of fantasy, how End Times is going to shape, and End Times is going to shape the way 9th edition is going to go? And what do you think about my elves? That's my question to you. Should I focus on my High Elf army and kind of write it in that it is the new High Elves in the 9th edition story? They're in the forests, but they still retain their traditions from when being on Ulfway, yeah, that's the word. Or should I man up and amalgamate my forces to have Dark Elves and Wood Elves and embrace the best bit about all of the elves and use them like that? I mean, what do you think?
What about your elves, or just in
You're not an elf player. You don't like elves, but what would you do?
I would.
Put you on the spot much?
I don't know. I always thought of Wood Elves as a bit namby-pamby.
Namby-pamby Wood Elves. You're going to anger all those Wood Elf players out there.
That's only my opinion.
All 12 of them.
But I don't know. High Elves always seemed a bit snobbery to me.
They are a proud race.
And then Dark Elves. Dark Elves, I don't know, they're alright, I suppose.
They're
just a bit, I don't know, you keep an eye on them.
You wouldn't turn away.
Like, if you went to a Pizza Hut with them, I don't know why I've got pizza on the mind, but if you went to a Pizza Hut with them, you wouldn't, like, leave your food alone with them, just because they'd do something to it, or move it.
So you're essentially saying...
You wouldn't necessarily trust the Dark Elves to...
You'd get roofied by a Dark Elf.
Well, they'd just, like, put
Oh. Or vinegar in your Coke pot.
Yes, that's what they'd do.
Okay. Who would do that?
The Dark Elves.
Not me then. We went 10-pin bowling once and you finished your Coke and I put vinegar in it.
I forgot about that.
We're like 12.
A few years ago. So yeah, I mixing them all together, you kind of just get a mix of
the best bits, but the thing that's holding me back
you
is
also
the
get
way
a mix
they
of
look.
and that's what I'm based on. Like Wood Elves, the appearance is a bit namby-pamby to me. The High Elves, the appearance is a bit snobbery, and Dark Elves, the appearance is a bit untrustworthy. And you put them all together, it's just like it's like a jigsaw puzzle that's of the same picture but different pieces.
You've almost forced the pieces together to make it work.
Yes, it's like putting a square peg in a round hole.
It might get stuck.
It might work, but it may not fit properly.
Mm.
But at the same time, picturing a big war scene, I don't think it would make much difference. Unless you have like on the same, like in the same movement tray or whatnot, a mix of the elves. That would look a bit weird. But then if you had like High Elves, I don't mean to like attack you.
Ow. Like a unit of sword
If you had,
masters.
so like in regiments, like if you had like Romans, you had like a certain unit here, certain unit there, another unit back here. They may not all look right together. Obviously, they're all in the same like outfits, but they may not look right together. But they'd fit. They'd do their jobs, and you wouldn't necessarily care about the aestheticness of it.
No.
So it's a case of whether you want to be really pretty on the board or be really powerful on the board.
But like,
So it all comes down to whether you are looks or power.
I like the way it looks. And I think if I was to paint some Wood Elves in the traditional colour scheme of the High Elves like I do, it wouldn't look right. But then having them painted in their way wouldn't look right standing next to.
Put them a little bit further away.
That could be an option, yeah. But I guess we just won't know until it comes out.
Until the end of times.
Until the end times, yeah.
But what am I going to do?
I think.
Obviously, we've discussed this. If lizard men have completely been written out, then we will still use them, but
We'll edit their
kind of
rules a little
edit
bit.
the rules and
For example, if all the codexes come out and all the infantry are a point less, or you don't need 25% of your core units.
we can edit it to mirror in the lizard men book. Obviously, if they're like lizard men, they're not really going to get much updating. So just kind of get whatever. And that's the thing for me. I don't know what's good. I don't know what's bad. I've had a few looks over the internet, and kind of what's a little bit disappointing is that I found the big lizards, the dinosaurs, aren't as effective as maybe you'd think they'd be. So
It's pretty scary though, having a load of monsters.
yeah, how cool is that? Just having a load of dinosaurs just roaming all over the world. But obviously, if they are up in space, and there is ways of them getting back into the world, and there's possibilities to keep them in the books and stuff, and keep using them in our battles. Dwarves, on the other hand,
I don't think much will change. I mean,
not a lot is changing for them.
I saw this thing on the internet.
I think they're going to be a bit like mercenaries as well, in that they're not going to be like loads and loads of them. It's just the few that come out of the mountains and come down
into the mountain.
But
I saw this really cool video on the Warhammer channel. It escapes me now, but basically they talked about 50% lords in choices and how dwarves really work well. You can have your front rank of these really strong, you're the strongest and toughest, I think they're Longbeards or something like that, and in front of them you have these two lord characters which have like a 1-up save, strength 7, 5 something attacks. You can then have the hero version of that as well, and your front rank is doing 30 to 40 hits, ignoring pretty much your opponent's armor, and the people behind you are the ones that are losing the wounds, because that's how you do it in fantasy. And how dwarves, that works well for the dwarves, the 50%. But
obviously, for me, it's just to kind of wait and see how it goes. And then, if push comes to shove, I might have to just develop another army for fantasy, as well as the two I'm already developing.
Which will be very interesting. I'm painting up the elves. I didn't. There was some rumours about it becoming circular bases, but I don't know if that is the case that's going to happen. So I'm just painting up my elves. I'm not basing them yet. I've got them completely off the clips, and then I'll just super glue them onto bases if it's going to continue with the square bases. That's kind of why I stopped and took a step back, really, what to do with it all. And now I'm getting into it again. What is this?
It's clearly a sash.
Yeah. But I'm kind of...
Have you not done loads of them already?
No.
Oh.
Not these ones.
So, I'm really enjoying my lizard man painting.
I'm enjoying painting the High Elves.
I've
It'll
got
take ages.
I've got to get a few more, like, big
creatures.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Just because, as I said, it's pretty cool having like 7 dinosaurs in the field.
I can imagine. Just enjoying the epicness that would be your T-Rexes and Stegodons and all that. It'd be like the original Power Rangers. Stegosaurus, Tyrannosaurus. But it would be with your other your dinosaurs, and they'd come up and they'd morph into this awesome lizard
Mighty
army.
morphing Power Ranger.
Mighty morphing roaring lizards. And they would just eat everything whilst your Sauruses mopped the table with everything else. That'd be cool.
I don't think mops really work on grass.
Well, it could do. Could be a grass mop. A rake.
It's not really a mop though, is it?
You're just not as imaginative, are you? You could have a mop, that's a rake. Mop up the blood with the rake. It makes sense. It makes sense.
I think you should brand that to B&Q or something.
I'm on it. I am on that.
There a B&Q in Cambridge?
I don't know.
It's a B. No Q.
You are hilarious.
So, are you gonna get a Empire army?
Me?
Yes.
No.
Are you gonna get? What's happening with your ogres?
At the moment, absolutely nothing.
And what are you gonna get for your undead?
I would have to say I'd have to go and get in the cash.
What have you got already?
A Terrorgeist, 3 Vargols, a Vampire Lord on a skeletal steed, 5 skeleton warriors on horses, and 20 zombies at the moment. So a little bit.
What about your High Elves? Do you know what you've got for them off the top of your head?
I have a mage, 10 swordmasters, 10 phoenix guard, 10 white lions, a lawmaster.
Great.
I'm going dragon.
True, yeah. Pigeon.
What? Yeah, I got a griffin, but I haven't made it. That's it.
What, indoors? You've got a griffin indoors?
No,
Just so
it's just so funny today. That's it. So I need to get crack on with the high elf.
You need to crack on. You need a kraken. Unleash the kraken.
Unleash your kraken. How are your dwarves coming along? You painted dwarves? You know, because you have a beard and you most resemble a dwarf.
Yeah, but
How's that going? They're quite small models, aren't they?
do one of you lot want to come paint my dwarves with me?
Well, that's opening a can of worms. You can have like 1 million people saying, I want to come and join you. Maybe not 1 million people.
No. Once I get into the notion of painting the dwarves, I'll probably get through them quite quickly, but it's just that mindset of I've got 50 million models to paint. Where do I start?
And they are small, aren't they? It's not like you're doing a Space Marine where you've got a large volume where you can see all this stuff. They are literally half the size of this.
I know.
Which is a bit crazy.
And I've got big dwarf hands. They're just like clumsiness. So
You are quite clumsy.
I don't know what you're talking about.
You do. You're very clumsy.
I don't know what you're talking about.
You looked over on my model.
I was just reenacting how it would have gone if a certain riptide had jumped off the Aquila and landed on the plane.
I'll let you off then. Just this. So, are you excited for 9th edition coming? What is the thing that you're most excited about, and how has End Times affected your army? Please leave a comment in the comment section below. That's about it from me. How are you? I would.
No, I have nothing further to add at this current moment in time.
So until 9th edition comes out, we're going to just continue looking at the rumours and painting models ready for it to come out. And then when it does come out, we'll grab ourselves a copy and see how it has affected how we're going to play Warhammer Fantasy 9th edition. So thank you very much for watching this Rambles video. I've been Mark from the Xenovids channel.
I've I've been Ian.
Thank you very much for watching. Please comment, like, share and subscribe. And we'll see you on the next video.
Goodbye.